Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Marina Tyurina, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Sherey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to post any question for our guest. Today's guest will be introduced by Professor Victor Fett.
Thank you, Anna. Before I introduce our guest, a couple of words to our listeners in Ukraine. Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні з глибоким уклином. Ми є свідками ваших великих страждань, а також вашої великої сили. Дякуємо за участь у нашій щотижневій програмі. We welcome back our contributor Marina Tyurina Oberlander from Washington, D.C. This is our 195th weekly meeting. Marina is a poet, writer, and well-known translator of Scandinavian and English prose and poetry into Russian, and author of 10 books, both in Russian and English. Her new book of poetry, In the Space of Colliding Elements, was recently released both in Kyiv and Boston. Marina was born in St. Petersburg, Leningrad, Russia, into the family of a world-renowned soil scientist Ivan Tyurin. She holds a master's degree in philology from Moscow State University. Her family history is closely connected to Ukraine, about which she had a presentation in our podcast in September 24. Marina is also one of the editors of the important expat Russian language journal, VREMENA, The Times, an international journal of fiction, literary debate, and social and political commentary. VREMENA supports Ukraine in its fight. Please, Marina, microphone is yours.
Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, to join me in this meeting, because the first attempt failed because of my computer, which didn't want to let me do it. But now it is fixed and everything is fine. So I will start my presentation today from to talk about. We'll talk about our journal. So to remind the audience that our journal was actually like the second step, the second phase of another literary journal that was called Time and Space. And it was founded in 2007 and existed for 10 years. It had a different publisher, but David Guy was his right hand. And after Igor Shikman withdrew himself from the editorial and publishing business, David, took the initiative and founded a new. So we renamed the journal into just the Times, VREMENA, and started it in a little bit different way. So it has more, I think, more political and social topics than the previous one. The previous one was mostly literature and art. So, but the times, of course, change. And so from 17, so our journal exists for 8 years, and in these 8 years, of course, in the beginning, it started already when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, and we immediately started to publish different topics, different prose and poetry that also came from Ukraine. Even on our editorial board, we have a Ukrainian writer, I think the most important writer, whose name is Alexei Nikitin. He wrote essays, and we published pieces from his novel. Actually, the novel from which we published a few excerpts before, when he was just in the middle of writing it, it is called Batami, and it was translated into English under the title The Face of Fire. Also, it came out in Russian with the same name, От лица огня. In Ukrainian, it was published Batami. So it is actually in the first issue of next year, 2026, we are publishing a new excerpt from the new novel of Alexei Nikitin, which is actually the second part of his trilogy. The first part was called Victory Park. It was translated into French and Italian, not into English. And now Alexei is continuing the saga about a few families in Kyiv that go, it is the second part. The second part of the trilogy is actually the action is going on now. So I want to talk a little bit about also what we did in the past, because we started to publish, Ukrainian poets in Ukrainian, because a lot of them actually stopped writing in Russian. It is a tragedy, of course, because some of them continue to write in Russian, but a lot of them switched. So we started little by little, we started to publish pieces in Ukrainian, and I hope that Ukrainian diaspora in United States and Canada will be pleased to see to read in Ukrainian. We have very, very interesting authors like Pavlo Rytser, who actually is a poet, and he he volunteered into the army on the first day of the war, and he is still fighting to defend his country, and he writes in Russian. We have also another poet, Alexander Kabanov, who is considered to be one of the very big poets in Ukraine. He also writes in Russian. We have Oleg Maximenko that actually stopped writing in Russian and switched completely to Ukrainian. We have a beautiful lady, Inna Trufanova, who writes both in Russian and in Ukrainian, and she sings songs. She is a singer and an actress, and she writes beautiful poetry. So these are the Ukrainian writers that I wanted to mention. And we actually also we publish Russian writing authors from Russia who are on the Ukrainian side, who support Ukraine, but who cannot be published in Russia now. Some of them left Russia and continue to work abroad. Some of them are still in Russia. This last year we published a very interesting novel that was called Transition. It is a novel about transgenders. They are actually very tragic fate in destiny in Russia, because especially transgenders are not accepted in the society. And many of them just commit suicides eventually because they cannot survive. So last year, well, in this fourth issue of this year, we started to publish a very interesting novel that is actually a chronicles novel written by Nina Abramovich. She is Russian. She was married to a Ukrainian, lived in Kyiv, got a Ukrainian green card, never got a Ukrainian passport. Her husband left, married another woman and went to Moscow. And she remained in Kyiv. And when the war started, she had to flee. And she started to write about her, escape and how it was with, well, the details are just, you cannot even imagine what people went through trying to escape from bombing and to save their kids. And it is just to read it, you cry, because you cannot even imagine that in the 21st century, such things may happen. So we in the first issue there will be a continuation of this novel, and I think that even in the second one there will be a continuation. So if anybody wants to read it, and this is just a very interesting novel because it is actually based on pure facts. The names are different, but it doesn't matter. The novel is called Home for Magdalena. So how a woman escaped from her own home and tries to find a place under the sun in Europe. So also there are different characters and everything. We have very interesting authors from Israel. One of them is Mikhail Goncharok, and with 3 new stories of him will be published in the first issue. Also a very interesting American, well, Russian-speaking American writer who was publisher of a journal for 20 years living in Philadelphia, Igor Mikhalevich Kaplan. He also gave a few stories for the first issue. And to show you how, well, my own poetry will be in the first issue, a poetry of another very nice, very talented poet, Gary Light, will be there. And also Tatiana Volskaya, who is actually native from Leningrad, St. Petersburg, had to escape to Georgia, lives in Georgia now because she was named foreign agent. You know that this is going on in Russia. Everybody who thinks differently and doesn't support Ukrainian war is named foreign agent. These people are watched. These people cannot make a step without being watched, and nobody knows when and how they will be arrested or sent to prison or somewhere else. So her poetry is very interesting, and her poetry will be in the first issue as well. Also, as I said, we publish different, materials that are not fiction, and even fiction based on facts. But we have a very interesting, section, and there is a very interesting author, Ksenia Gamarnik, who writes about different jubilees and the different people who are big figures in literature and art also. So in the first issue, there will be her big material about Harper Lee, about her novel To Kill the Mockingbird, about the movie, how it all went, how her friendship with Truman Capote, and this is a very, very interesting material. Also, there is a very interesting travel story. We have an author, she lives in New York, Galina Itskovich. She is a writer and poet, and she wrote her impressions about the trip to Amazonia. And she took the name from Conan Doyle, The Lost World. So, of course, it is not a novel, it is a story, but very interesting story about her impressions. She likes to travel, and that was a very interesting experience. Also, I want to tell you about a very interesting material that was published in the third issue of year 25. It was written by a military guy who actually was sent to the front from Russia. He is Russian. And he participated in the beginning of the war against Ukraine. And he realized what it was. He escaped, and he managed to get to Netherlands. He was protected, and now he lives under protection of the Dutch government. So his story, of course, is just absolutely amazing because it's a story of an insider. So, of course, we also have humor, and I will tell you about one material that will be published. We start to publish the stories written by a stuntman. Russian stuntman who started his career as a stuntman and then ended up in Hollywood. Now he is, he even participated in one film by Steven Spielberg, which was called Artificial Intelligence. And he writes about his experience, his work together with Americans. He participated in 2 movies about, oh my goodness, there was a whole series of that sometimes my mind just switches off, but I will remember. And actually, one of these, Born Identity and Born Revenge. So one of these movies was shot in Moscow, and before the war. So he participated in it, and even his son participated in this movie. And after that, he was invited to Hollywood to make another film. So it's written with absolutely great sense of humor. So I laughed when I read it, and I think you will have a very pleasant reading, just relaxing reading, not heavy reading about the war, because we try to balance. People cannot read only dark things. They have to have some fun, and because life goes on. Well, this is what I wanted to tell you about our journal. Our journal can be, you can subscribe to it from this coming year. The subscription is both paper and electronic. So paper issue subscription is $80 per year with postal service, post delivery, and mail delivery, and electronic is just online, and it costs $40. So each issue as advertisement on you can read, of course, something for free to at least have an impression, to have an idea what materials are about, but they will be very short, and to read in full, you will have to subscribe. Also, if you are interested just in particular issue, you can buy a book, any book from the publisher. It is easy, and it will be delivered to you if you want to have something in paper, but you don't want to subscribe for the whole year. So this is how it works. And now I will tell a little bit about my own books that were published in the last few years. So as Victor said, I have a few books in Russian, and this year I published the book. Actually, I published it in Ukraine. Because during, of course, these years, first of all, I grew up in Ukraine. I spent my childhood there, and I visited Ukraine every year. And I have very, tight ties with Ukraine because my mother was Ukrainian, my grandfather and grandmother were Ukrainian, and actually my grandfather was my first teacher and tutor in this life. So I have a whole, because when I published my first books, I had a lot of poems dedicated to this little town, Pyryatin, in the Poltava region. And I continued to write. I wrote the majority of them in the 70s. And then for a while, I wasn't writing about Ukraine. And then when I went back, I started to write again. And then there were memories. And so this cycle, the town of my childhood, is started to grow. And I decided to publish it as well. And then I started to write a lot about Ukraine since 2014. So I have my two cousins live in Donetsk. Their families are, divided, separated, because the daughter and the son of one of my brothers, the girl lives in Kyiv, and actually her own daughter, was born 3 weeks before the invasion. And she spent practically the whole year in the cellar. She grew up in the cellar. And his son, one of his two sons, lives and works in Poland. So it is very difficult to survive because they cannot even visit each other. Between 2014 and 2022, at least they could go from Donetsk to Kyiv, or from Kyiv to Donetsk. It was possible to go by train or by bus. After 22 is completely impossible, and it's a tragedy for people who cannot communicate close, daughter, son, father, mother. it's terrible. I have a friend. She is a professor at Kyiv University, and my second cousin is also a professor at Kyiv University, and I communicate with them, and they, tell me how they survive, and they cannot leave. They cannot leave. Actually, my cousin, the lady and her husband, they live in Bucha, and they survived Bucha's occupation. So she said they were lucky because these guys didn't reach their house. They didn't occupy the whole Bucha, just part of it. So they were a little bit further, and they didn't reach them. But they had no electricity, they had no heating, they had no water, they had nothing, absolutely nothing. And they couldn't go to Kiev because everything was blocked. Only when Bucha was liberated, then Tatiana could actually return to her work at the university because she lectures. She's specialist in Polish literature and Polish language. So this is absolutely horrible, and of course I started to write about these things, and I had already a pretty big bunch of poetry that I published in my book that was published actually in Russia in 2020. And then I decided to collect all these poems and to add many others and to make a book of my poetry that was, because I published in my own journal. I published them in other how do you call it? Not books, but journals, newspapers. So I decided to collect all of them, and all this poetry. It came to this book, which is called it's called in Russian "В пространстве перехлёстнутых стихий." In English, it's in the space of collided elements. And yeah, the translation that is more close. And I asked my friend, who is a publisher in Kyiv. Actually, Victor published, I think, 5 or 6 books already with him. And he said, of course, we shall publish your book. Just send me everything and we shall do it. And it was amazing because, well, I have to brag, of course, because my grandson did the illustrations. He did the cover and he did all the illustrations. I have 10 sections in the book. And so 2 of them are completely dedicated to Ukraine. One of them is called The Town of My Childhood, and another one is called Faith and Fate. So these are the poems that are more just they were written very recently. And also I have a section about love, of course. I write a lot about love because I think that without love, people are just, they're not humans. If they don't speak about love, if they don't feel love. So my impression of those who are left in Russia, these people don't know what love is, what love, compassion, empathy. They don't feel it because what they do in Ukraine, it is, I cannot even describe it with normal words. So this was a very interesting experience. This publishing house, which is called Drukarski Dvir Olega Fyodorova, is in Kyiv, and it's amazing that they continue to publish books. And the most amazing thing was when the book was published. I ordered about, I don't remember how many, 35 or 40 books, and they arrived to Washington in 2 weeks. And my friends, who I also ordered books for them to be delivered in Kyiv, they will deliver it next day. It is absolutely amazing. The city is bombed. People are going to shelters and whatever. And the post, the mail is, the post is working. Is working with on a regular basis. There are no delays. I remember when I was getting books from Russia, when I was still published in Russia. My last book was published in 2020. It took me 3 months to get the books. So it was just, it was amazing. And I had to involve people that, could transport them and whatever. But here it was just absolutely easy. He said, how many do you want? Okay. I transferred money by PayPal. Next day it was sent to the post office, and in 2 weeks I got it. It was delivered to my home. So it was very, very interesting. Now I want just to show you 2 of my books in English, because as I'm giving this talk to English, mainly English-speaking audience, I want them to look at the covers, and I will tell just a few words about each of them. So this is the book, which is called I Simply Want to Fall in Love. I Simply Have to Fall in Love. It is a book of poetry that was partly written in English by me. So it's original poetry, because I started to write in English in 2018, and I continue. So here are about 60 poems. Some of them are translated from Russian into English by me and by my colleagues. And it is a book because it's all love. It's all love, because it's actually dedicated to the memory of my husband. He died he passed in 2018. And just a few months later, I started to write in English. So I will I will read you two little poems from this book, so you can have an idea what it is about. The first, the prologue, is this poem, I Simply Have to Fall in Love. I simply have to fall in love with something or somebody. It may be cloud, it may be dove, a soul or a body, a twinkling star in stormy night, a tender voice from heaven, a touch of blessing in twilight when poems pour in heaven. In 7, a sheet of paper, blank and white, which I will stain with letters, or my next dream, which brings delight, and that is all that matters. And the epilogue of this book is called I Play the Melody of Love that keeps my soul high above the prose of life and life's routine, and makes me fly into a dream, the dream where wishes stay alive, and lust is waiting for delight of tasty kiss and tender touch. Is this I wish I dream too much? Is this a dream I wish to clutch and on the keys that I will play, you'll see the image I display. So I believe in love. That's why I write about it. And this book is my book of prose. It is a collection of my short stories. It is called That Strange Feeling of Freedom, which actually I took. It's the title of one of my stories, and this story is actually based on a true story that happened in Washington, D.C., when a red panda ran away from the zoo. Then it was found, and there was a big, big mess about it because the zoo was, rushing all over. And finally, it was found in some yard, sitting behind the trash bin. And it gave me, a feeling that, well, of course, every creature has a feeling of freedom. And if you are sitting in the cage, you want to get out. It doesn't matter if you are a panda, if you are a kangaroo, or if you are a human being. The cage is a cage, even if it is very comfortable. So I wrote this story, and I think it is a very interesting one because I actually my stories are where animals communicate with people, and they understand humans, and humans understand them. And I, of course, included into this story my grandson and my husband. If you read it, you will see. This is a story how actually this panda came to Washington because it lived in Bhutan, and he was very happy, and he had a wife, and he had a little son, and then something, he wanted to go and see whatever is behind the mountain, and he fell into the river, and he was, the river brought him to India. And in India, red pandas are not in a very comfortable position because they are shot for their beautiful fur. So he was lucky. He was saved and sent to the zoo in Calcutta. And from Calcutta, he was sent to Washington. And that's how he starts to live in a, it's not a cage actually, but it's the zoo, and how he wants to escape. So this is the story of what freedom. It has a lot of philosophy. And I also have, so I have a story about a red panda. I have two stories about cats. I have a story about a dog. I have a story about a cello that falls in love with her master. And it is based on my father's biography. So every story has a story behind, but I like magic, and I like to play with it. So I have actually in the story about the cat that traveled all over the world with her, family. She was saved by that family, and lived with that family all her life, and was in Japan, and was in Moscow, and was in the United States, and everywhere. And actually, she was in Kyiv. And I want to read you, if I have 5 minutes. Can I read, or I have to finish, Victor?
You have 5, even 8 minutes, please.
Even 8 minutes. Okay. This is just a little bit nostalgic excerpt. Kyiv greeted us with an explosion of chestnut blossoms. This was more amazing than sakura. Wide boulevards flanked by gorgeous large trees with white cones of blossoms were covered in tiny petals as if in snow. A sweet and spicy aroma permeated the air. On the sidewalks by restaurants stood tables, and cheerful young people occupied them. We crossed a large square with a huge fountain in the middle and many brightly and prettily dressed humans. Tasha said, this is her, the lady who is her master. Tasha said that this was the main city square and it was called the Maidan. Then we arrived at our apartment. The apartment was large and a lot like the one in Moscow, only these windows looked out at the zoo. Sometimes I could see a camel. He looked back at me haughtily and sometimes spat in a nasty way. I didn't like him. However, several days later, I met my neighbor. The apartment had a large balcony, and Tasha almost always left the door open. I loved the balcony despite the presence of the camel. The chestnut blossoms hung so low that I could touch them and make them shake and cover me in petals. Deeply involved in this fun activity, I heard a cat's voice. "Oi, how come you are here?" I left the petals alone and turned. On the next balcony over sat a naked silvery cat that looked a bit like Trudeau. Trudeau was a cat she met in a hospital, in an animal hospital in Japan before. Only her ears were folded forward and her eyes were bright blue. Honestly, I froze. "Who are you?" I asked, cautious. "Lesia," the cat replied calmly. "Who are you?" "Flash. What breed are you? I haven't seen a cat like you in my life. I met a naked cat in Japan, but her ears were straight." "Oh, she must be a distant cousin. Was she a Canadian Sphinx or a Don?" "Canadian. One of my ancestors is Don Sphinx. They look alike. I am a Ukrainian live koi. It's a new breed. There are only 5 of us, but soon there will be more." Oh, I was impressed. "Who are your humans?" "My chief human is a university professor. Her daughter is a journalist." "Go figure," I said happily. "My humans are also journalists. Maybe they will be friends." "Would be nice," Lesia said. "Birds of a feather flock together. By the way, did you say you had been to Japan?" "I did. Why?" "Well, we'll have something to talk about. I'm curious. I'm very young and haven't seen anything beyond my family and the cattery. How old are you?" "I'm 6 years old. And you?" 4 months. "You are a baby," I laughed. "Tell me, what is a cattery?" "It's a place where they create new breeds." "How did you end up with the professor?" "The cattery director gave me to her in gratitude for something. I don't recall what. I was very young then. The professor is nice. I love her. The daughter is also nice, but she prefers horses. She spends all her free time with them." "What is a horse?" "They are huge. I have never seen one in person, only in a picture of Basia sitting on Rubena. Is Basia the journalist? You, and Rubena is the horse." Okay. I think this will be enough because otherwise I will read much more. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure to be with you. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Yes, thank you, Marina. This was a wonderful hour and absolutely full of information, joy, and creativity. Dr. Please unmute yourself.
Yes. You mentioned having relatives in the Donetsk. Their house is not occupied by the Russians, but they have no water and they have no electricity. So how do they communicate with family members in free Ukraine? If they don't have electricity, they can't charge their cell phones.
No. In Donetsk, they have electricity because I said in Bucha there was no electricity. It is in the area where they are bombing. They are not bombing Donetsk because they consider Donetsk their own territory. The Russians, they occupied it in 2014, and since then it has been under occupation. But everything functions there.
So they have cell phone and it's not intercepted?
I cannot call them even by WhatsApp anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if I can do it by, Messenger in Facebook, because I communicate with my family in Moscow by using the Messenger. That's the only channel that works. WhatsApp doesn't work anymore. That's it. Not WhatsApp, not, regular phone. Even for money, you cannot do it. So people are inventing now different channels, and I know because I have a friend here who has a son in Moscow. His son has a family, 3 kids, and he wants to communicate with him, and he is actually very good with computers. He helped me with this problem that happened last Friday. But he did a big research, and he eventually found a channel that he can call, and he can call not on the cell phone, because sometimes cell phones are blocked, but you can call on the landline. So people are inventive. They try to go around the obstacles and find opportunity to communicate.
Thank you.
That is terrible. That is terrible.
Okay. Thank you.
More questions or comments, please, from our viewers. Thank you all for coming today. Carol, please.
Hello, how are you? Thank you so much, Marina, for your storytelling and for the amazing work that you're doing. Just absolutely amazing. I wanted to hear, you said something earlier in your presentation that really caught my eye, or my ear. You talked about love and how you believe in love. And immediately the scripture came into my mind that perfect love casts out all fear. And I think how needed that is in such fearful times in Ukraine. But what I heard you say is that the people in Russia, you don't believe that they know love.
Not
And
everybody.
I'd like to I'd like to hear more about that. Like, how do you survive if you don't know love? How is that even possible?
Well, people survive. I'm talking about those who are fighting, because what they are doing, you see, well, just I deliberately told about this publication of this military guy who was drafted, who was sent to the front, and when he realized what it was, what the Russian army was doing, what the soldiers were doing, not only killing, but just robbing the people, taking everything, and sending it to their families. So they don't have love. They don't. They are taught to hate. They're taught to hate. That is the most horrible thing. we read such a lot about hatred, about how Germans were taught to hate in the 30s, and then how what they did when even they didn't commit such crimes as Russians in Bucha, Irpin, and occupied territories. I don't know. This is something horrible. I never thought that the nation that survived the war, such a horrible war in the 40s, that they will, fall so low in their intellect. I don't know what happens with their brains, why they cannot think. They just don't. They just don't. Even now, when sometimes you talk to people, it is amazing. People who go to Moscow, I have a few. They go to Moscow on a regular basis. They come, oh my God, Moscow is so beautiful. It is amazing what they did. I said, guys, they don't touch Moscow. There is no draft in Moscow. Not in Moscow, not in St. Petersburg. Certain, layers, I would say, of people are exempt from draft. And they continue to live in luxury. They, of course, Moscow is beautiful, St. Petersburg is beautiful, but if you go, 50 kilometers from Moscow or 50 kilometers from St. Petersburg, you will see that there is no electricity. People go to the toilet outside. They don't have running water. I'm not talking about Siberia. It's close to Moscow. The country that has such an enormous amount of gas, exports gas to half of the Europe, there is no gas in whole regions. There is no running water.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing the conditions that people would live in and do live in, and they don't. I guess they don't know the difference.
Of course,
Can
50% of Russia, 50% is not gasified.
Wow, and they export all of this. That's crazy. You write frequently about love and freedom, and the red panda story about freedom. Can you say a little bit more about the interplay between love and freedom and hatred and imprisonment, like of your soul, of your spirit, the opposites?
It is interesting that actually Leo Tolstoy partly gave the answer to this, because when Pierre Bezukhov is in captivity, taken to captivity because Moscow is occupied by Napoleon, so he didn't leave Moscow, he stayed there. And so he is in captivity, held in captivity, and he is talking to, people who are sitting next to him, and they say, what do you feel? And he said, well, when I look at stars, I understand that they can keep my body in captivity, but they will never keep my soul and mind in captivity. So that is the difference. If you can be free, even if you are in captivity, if you are if you find love just in your soul, and you can remain free, and your mind can remain free. It won't be damaged by propaganda, by anything. And that's a very, 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 very serious matter. I actually think that love is the highest and the most important category, philosophical category. Everything can be interpreted by love. Everything comes to it. Everything comes to it.
Yes. In the end, love wins. In the
Yes.
end.
Yeah.
Victor put into the meeting chat the quote, Pierre looked into the sky, into the depths of the retreating, twinkling stars, and all this is mine, and
Mhm.
all this is in me, and all this is me, thought Pierre. And all this they've caught and they've put it in a shed and boarded it up. From War and Peace. Mm.
Yeah. But he says, my eternal soul, they cannot capture. My soul is eternal.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Marina,
It was
for everything that you are doing, supporting the fight against evil, for being one of the editor of one of the most important intercultural, I would say, editions here in the States. We are witnessing indeed very strange and very rapid deterioration of many things. In my wildest dreams, or your wildest dreams, we wouldn't imagine this almost a caricature of everything that goes on, history, politics, language, whatever. They just as a footnote, a new academic dictionary of Russian language is published in St. Petersburg, which has a lot of interesting entries. One of them is authoritarianism, defined as a most efficient way of governing in troubled times, starting from letter A.
yeah.
And so they go. And this is done by the deans of several faculties in the several departments in Petersburg University. They wrote this dictionary.
Oh goodness.
They
No.
redefine the language. And, people like you and like Oleg Fedorov, or one publisher in Kyiv, are might be the last people, last generation of keeping this language of Tolstoy. Say, I mean, there is nothing to be shy of, because tomorrow AI only poetry of this idea, and there will be little natural intelligence to keep it on.
I don't
But
know.
we are what we can. That's a long philosophical debate, which may be longer than our based society today can bear. But anyway, thank you so much for being with us, and this is a privilege to interview people like you, like our many speakers over this almost 4 years. We are here. We are not going away, and we'll be continuing these conversations. Thank you all for coming today. If I see no more comments, I will conclude this with greetings to our viewers in Ukraine. Дорогі брати і сестри в Україні, ми тримаємо вас у наших щоденних думках і молитвах. Нехай милосердний Бог береже вас у своїй опіці. До наступного тижня. Прощаємось. Слава Україні!
Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Heroim Slava. Thank you so very much. Thank you.